FOMC React Day. I don't miss an FOMC, but usually I watch them offline. But since the last one we watched on stream was so much fun, I figured I'd do it again. So we already know the result, which is another rate cut. Again, the government can raise or lower interest rates to either slow down or speed up the economy, as it were, which is just raising and lowering borrowing costs. Today they lowered, they continue to lower, which is what Trump has been asking for nonstop. So we know it's going to happen, but what we don't know is what he will say as to why. The real interesting thing about today's FOMC is that they're doing it in the dark. Because the government is now on day 28 of the shutdown, we don't have a Bureau of Labor Statistics. We don't have a BLS. Nobody's publishing the employment numbers. We don't know. Everything is in the dark. There's no data. So normally very data dependent Jerome Powell, who always answers a question by saying we're going to follow the data, he's going to have to answer as to why they are continuing to cut. Why aren't they holding? And that'll be interesting. That'll be something I want to know. So we're going to go to that.
Although some important federal government data have been delayed due to the shutdown.
Oh, yeah, okay.
The public and private sector data that have remained available suggests that the outlook for employment and inflation has not changed much since our meeting in September.
I see.
Conditions in the labor market appear to be gradually cooling, and inflation remains somewhat elevated.
You see it gradually cooling. Right off the bat, what did he say? He said we don't have a lot of data, but based on the private data we have, the labor market's still cooling. He said gradually cooling, which I would say is an understatement. Because we're getting like these massive layoff reports. UPS, 48,000 layoffs. Amazon, 30,000 layoffs. Intel, 24,000 layoffs. Nestle, 16,000. Accenture, 11,000. Ford, 11,000. Novo Nordisk is not really American. Microsoft, 7,000. PwC, 5,600. These are all recent.
The shutdown of the federal government will weigh on economic activity while it persists, but these effects should reverse after the shutdown ends. In the labor market, the unemployment rate remained.
So we're going to do a video on the government shutdown in 2 days if it hits 30 days. Because 30 days would be an incredible marker for a government shutdown. That's when things really start to break. After 30 days, a lot of people stop showing up for work, including many air traffic controllers. That's the time when it needs to get solved. I think even the longest one only lasted 34 days. After around 30, the pressure is so immense. So we'll cover that, but I guess for now, it is not severely damaging, though it is damaging.
Our monetary policy actions are guided by our dual mandate to promote maximum employment and stable prices for the American people.
Bro, put some passion into it, Jerome.
The committee decided to lower the target range for the federal funds rate by a 1/4 percentage point to 3 3/4 to 4%.
Okay, so we're back at
higher tariff.
So we're like late 22. As you can see, we raised we had inflation in 21. The government raised interest rates really fast to try and stop that. We held it higher for longer, he said. And now we're in a pretty rapid cutting cycle, it seems. So we're right about where we were, November 22, on the way down.
In the committee's discussions at this meeting, there were strongly differing views about how to proceed in December.
Okay, let's pause on that. So if you know this FOMC thing, he's the chairman. He delivers the remarks. He makes the final call, but it's a vote. It's a debate. And I looked at the dot plots here, and we had a pretty big divergence. So this guy, Jeffrey Schmidt, he said, hey, we need to keep interest rates flat. Inflation's a problem. We need to keep them as is, no cut. He voted for that. This guy, Stephen Mirren, this is the guy that Trump wants probably to be the next Fed chair after Jerome Powell. This guy said, we got to cut. We need to do a bigger cut, jumbo rate cut. This guy probably will be the guy that takes Jerome Powell's spot, unless it's Scott Bessent. He's angling for the job. He wants to be as pro-Trump as possible here.
At today's meeting, the committee also decided to conclude the reduction of our aggregate securities holdings as of December 1. Our long-stated plan has been to stop balance sheet runoff when reserves are somewhat above the level we judge consistent with ample reserve conditions.
This is quantitative tightening and they're stopping it. Very, very, very short version is that we did quantitative easing post-COVID and post the Great Recession, where you basically print money to buy bonds to help stabilize the market. And then we were stopping that and reversing it. We were doing quantitative tightening where we were letting those bonds run off of our balance sheet. And now that we're pausing that, it's a sign that we're probably going to go back to QE again. And again, QE is kind of like I want to make this understandable. it's a pretty insane thing. Like, it didn't exist realistically for America prior to 2009. And it is like a last resort kind of crazy, just fire up the money printer to flood liquidity into the market type thing. Now, we're not doing that now. We're doing the opposite, actually. But he just said we're stopping the opposite, which is a sign that we might restart QE.
Our balance sheet has fallen from 35% to about 21%.
Yeah, but
In December, we'll enter the next phase of
let's get realistic about this, Jerome Powell. I appreciate what you're saying, but this is the balance sheet, okay? This is the amount they've purchased with printed money. You'll notice essentially nothing. Then great financial crisis. Then we've been QEing pretty much nonstop our whole goddamn lives. Then pandemic stimulus, it was fucking insane. And then they were like, all right, we're gonna let this run off. And they've done $2 trillion of runoff to get us back to where we were, like basically here. Now they're stopping. So it's not like we're not even back to pre-COVID. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, this is, and now we're gonna start again? So it's just it's difficult to stomach.
The Fed has been assigned two goals for monetary policy: maximum employment and stable prices. We remain committed to supporting our maximum employment, bringing our inflation.
You think it's hard being Jerome Powell saying that same sentence 400 times every speech, all day, every day?
We at the Fed will do everything we can to achieve our maximum employment and price stability goals.
All right.
Thank you. I look forward
Questions,
to your
questions.
We've just heard from you that the
Sheesh, nice scarf.
the discussion in December
is that a money scarf? Does that say money? Does that have like an ATM and what is this fucking scarf, dude? Sheesh.
And then just a quick follow-up. You mentioned that you do have data that you're looking at for inflation and growth in the absence of government data. Could you give us a sense? I think we know a lot about the jobs data that's out there. Can you give us a sense of what you're looking at to track inflation in the absence of government data?
Yeah,
Thank
what
you.
are you?
So it's a lot of things, and it doesn't replace government
Dude,
data.
it'd be great if you just said, I've been going to the grocery store. I don't have government data anymore, so I've just been walking around. Shit's pricey, bro. I try to buy eggs.
I just wanted you to elaborate a little bit on what you said a moment ago about the continued shutdown, making it more difficult to make a move in December.
You know, this is a temporary state of affairs, and we're going to do our jobs. We're going to collect every scrap of data we can find, evaluate it, and think carefully about it. And that's our jobs. That's what we're going to do.
I mean, he's probably right.
If you ask me,
Everyone's saying Pepe laugh. Realistically, this government shutdown should end, honestly, within a week. Quote me right now. If we flash forward 1 week and this shit's still going on, it's fucking crisis, bro. Like because that'll be what, 35 days? It'll be full on the longest one ever. I want this clip to be flash forward in 6 months and we're in the longest government shutdown in history. We're roving the streets like bandits. Because how many days are we at now? It's like, I think it's 28 as of today. 34, 35 would be the longest. So about 1 week from today. So yeah, 1 week would be a tie. If it goes past that, I wouldn't be shocked, I guess, given the political dynamics, but I would be worried. Because that's when the effects become very, very, very real. I'm also supposed to fucking fly to Japan in like 2 weeks or something. If they don't solve it, there's going to be no air traffic controllers for me to go. I'm not flying at that point. Dude, I heard air traffic controllers are getting like second jobs driving Uber. It's crazy. It's crazy. I don't want my fucking ATC to do an 8-hour Uber shift and then get on the 10-hour shift, making my life in his hands. It's absurd.
down. So a significant number of companies either announcing that they are not going to be doing much hiring or actually doing layoffs.
Yeah.
And much of the time they're talking about AI and what it can do. So we're watching that very carefully. And yes, it could absolutely have implications for job creation. We don't really see it in the initial claims data yet. Now, it's not a surprise that we don't. It takes some time for it.
I was just going to say, what a stupid statement, Jerome Powell. You know that. You know that it wouldn't show up in the initial claims data yet. That's a lagging indicator. You know that, and what's the fucking response? By the way, we don't even have data. That's like being in a plane going down and being like, well, listen, we haven't seen this show up on Wikipedia yet. Yeah, it won't show up till afterwards, bro. Yeah, but I'm checking. I'm monitoring very closely.
On the K-shaped economy thing, I would say the same thing or similar thing. We are, if you listen to the earnings calls or the reports of, big public consumer-facing companies, many of them are saying that there's a bifurcated economy there,
Yep.
and that consumers at the lower end are struggling
Yeah.
and buying less and shifting to lower cost products, but that at the top, people are spending at the higher income and wealth, and so much anecdotal data on that, and so we think there's something there. So,
Bro, I have to say it. I'm never gonna be able to find this. This guy wrote a fucking novel. Look at this fucking novel. Look at this fucking novel. And it's insane. There's so many annoying people on Reddit that'll write this fucking shit. And now, because I say it early. I say it fucking early when the data's already showing it. And now it's like openly admitted to in the Federal Reserve meeting.
Do you have any concerns that equity markets are or are close to being overvalued at this point?
You won't answer, but
we don't look at any one asset price and say, hey, that's wrong. It's not our job to do that. At the lower income spectrum, you are seeing rising defaults, particularly around subprime auto, but nonetheless, in the aggregate, pretty good. You don't see too much leverage in the banking system or the financial system. It's a mixed picture, but it's not an over.
Well, I'd push back on that a little bit, Jerome Powell, in that in the banking system, they're hiding rising defaults, but also a lot of it's in private credit, in this opaque black box of lending that you don't have insight into. I don't have insight into. Wall Street doesn't have insight to. Nobody knows the risks of private credit. But we've already seen some blow-ups, and in the words of Jamie Dimon, where there's one cockroach, there's usually more.
And why do you think that the labor market is slowing so much, even though consumer spending is strong?
Why has it slowed so much? Well, what's happened is that the supply of workers has
I
dropped
heard your supply
very,
of workers
very
story.
sharply due to mainly immigration, but also lower labor force participation.
Would you perhaps admit, Jerome Powell, that lower labor force participation is people at the lower end of the economy deciding there are no good jobs, so I'm going to drop out of looking? I would rather not try for a job when I know the only options I have are barely worth what unemployment pays me. Like, it's like that dropout of the labor force is in response to opportunity and not like a random choice. This line of argument makes no sense. People don't create jobs because there's people there that need them. It's like companies aren't like, oh, there's a bunch of new people that need jobs, let me make jobs for them. That's not why they do it. It's not, again, I can see how, spending by immigrants could support the creation of new jobs. I could see some part of that. And if you remove people, it could slow down growth. But the way he's framing it is ass backwards from that.
Thank you so much, Chair Powell. Jennifer Schonberger with Yahoo Finance. Both regional and large banks have taken losses on loans given delinquencies on subprime auto loans. JP Morgan CEO Jamie Dimon warned, when you see one cockroach, there may be more likely. I'm curious how the Fed is looking at these loan losses and if it poses risks to the financial system or the outlook for the economy. Is it a warning
question.
sign?
So, we're obviously, we watch these things very carefully, credit conditions very carefully. You're right. You've seen rising defaults in subprime credit for some time now, and now you've seen a number of subprime credit, automobile credit institutions having significant losses, and some of those losses are now showing up on the books of banks. We're looking at it carefully. We're paying close attention.
Okay. But isn't it kind of fucking annoying, Jerome, that like when you're talking about the economy, you don't mention any of this stuff. And then when someone asks you about it, you go, yeah, we're aware of that and watching it closely, but you just decided not to mention it. It's like the third time in this meeting, someone has brought up like a pretty significant narrative violation. And you go, yes, of that, of course. I'm aware of that. We're watching that closely, but we don't, it's like, I understand that all the facts aren't out yet, but it's like a pretty important thing to watch.
I don't see
y'all
at this
didn't
point a broader credit issue. It doesn't seem to be something that has very broad application across financial institutions. But, you know, we're going to be monitoring this quite carefully and making sure that that is the case.
I'm not saying this will happen. But that sounds exactly like former Fed Chair Ben Bernanke. I have the quote, but I can't find the video. It's just Ben Bernanke saying, "We believe the effects of troubles in the subprime sector are limited. We don't expect any spillovers to the rest of the economy or the financial system. They're all contained." You know? That it just sounds exactly the same. So, you know, it's hard to trust, bro. Again, I do agree. I'm being a little bit of a dickling right now. I do agree. Obviously, subprime auto is smaller than subprime housing in 2007. I'm just saying, like, you're using the same verbiage and language, and we have no idea how extensive this is because it's all private. It's all hidden. It's all these companies that made so many loans, and we have no insight into the books.
And then separately, many, you yourself have said that we're in a bifurcated economy right now with high net worth individuals continuing to spend with the lower income pulling back. How much of consumer spending continuing hinges on the stock market remaining strong in some odd way?
These are the two best questions so far. Who is this woman? I'm going to follow her on social media. Jennifer Schonberger at Yahoo Finance. Maybe we can interview her.
How much of consumer spending continuing hinges on the stock market remaining strong? In some odd way, does the market help keep the economy buoyant?
So there's some relationship there, but remember, the more wealth someone has, the lower an additional dollar of wealth matters. So your marginal propensity to consume declines quite dramatically as you reach levels of stock market wealth. So, you know, the stock market, it would affect spending if the stock market went down, but it wouldn't drop sharply unless there were quite a sharp drop in the in the stock market. People at the lower end of income and wealth have a much higher marginal propensity to consume. Thanks very much.
Damn, she got the one good question and he fucking dipped. That's the Schonberger difference, bro. Yahoo Finance just mogged all you fucking organizations. All right. Well, that was fun. That was fun to watch. Nothing too shocking, nothing too crazy. I think he was in line with what he said last time. To be fair, I think a cut is probably appropriate. I mean, it's not that crazy, although we'll see what they do in December. Some part of me wishes he would just fucking hold strong against inflation specifically, but that's because I don't fucking, it's easy for me to say. I'm not looking for a job.